I think with that said, over to you, Jasmin.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Giannis. Thanks for having me. Hi, welcome everybody. Super that you're spending time. I was really surprised when Giannis just said, well, this is not what we put on the title. Well, we did, right? EQ is emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
It's just the two-letter acronym that is maybe not as popular.
It's all good.
Written out results. So no worries. This is all of what we're going to cover. And I've tried to really pull together the most interesting pieces here for you is about emotional intelligence and how that has very tangible benefits and very tangible implications on your everyday business, right? Which might be counterintuitive or might sound counterintuitive because we're all so technical and try to be rational. But guess what? We're all humans. The second we show up at work or in life, generally speaking, we bring ourselves, and that also means we bring our emotions. So, who am I and why does that matter? Just really briefly, I wear many hats, as many of you know. I'm an author, I'm an ultra runner, I'm a growth strategist, I'm a community chair at the MACH Alliance, and I work with a lot of leaders in high pressure, high expectation environments. And those environments are really tough, of course, you all know that. You are these types of people. And also, what matters is not what sounds good in theory. That's easy, right? We can all talk about all the things we could be doing. But what matters is what holds when things actually get hard, and what actually works when you get to a crossroad and you're not quite sure what to do, because that's what happens. And we've all been there and we all know it, but we don't talk about it all that much. So with that said, for today, I've brought 3 things. Very simple because we are limited on time, so I try to make the most of it for you guys. 1 story, really quickly. 1 framework, so you can actually take what you hear today and apply it to your everyday work. I really want you to take away practical learnings. And 1 practical reflection, just a really quick thing for you to do in a little while that you can use immediately, and that hopefully will make you realize or discover something that you might not have been aware of until today. So let me start with a slightly provocative statement. Emotional intelligence is not a soft skill. It's a performance multiplier. That's why I had the results on the title slide earlier, right? We have a tendency to think about emotions as touchy-feely or not directly related to performance, or something to avoid, something to silence, something to push away, because many times we've been taught or we learn that it's not appropriate either to talk about it or to use it to explain things. So that is really my mission here. In most transformation-heavy environments, like many of the ones that you're in, it's often the difference between strategy succeeding or quietly stalling, whether you are able to read emotions in yourself, in your teams, in your companies, or not. And that is really, really important to understand. It's not something to push away. It's something that can be really, really valuable if you can understand how to really harvest it. So really importantly, what fascinates me is the more senior the leader, the less feedback they receive. And many of you might be quietly nodding along. The more senior the leader, the less feedback they receive about their emotional patterns. And the more impact those patterns have, because the person is senior, right? So they make a lot of decisions, they do a lot of the talking, they really are the center of many of the decisions that are being made. And that's what we're going to really see. You might be that person that finds themselves in the position where you're making the calls and you're either not getting the feedback directly, but you might not be watching for the right signals. So what are those signals? What are your patterns that really make you make decisions the way you do? And this is also a very true statement, right? Leadership rarely, some might say never, shows up when things are easy. Everybody can be a leader and wants to be a leader when it's smooth sailing, right? Profits are rolling in, sales are going up, market is trending up. Everybody loves that. But real leadership shows up when you're tired, when you're under pressure, usually lots of it from all different directions, and you're still expected to perform. None of you get a blank carte blanche to just not be feeling it some of the days, right? We're all expected to show up and to lead with integrity and to really be role models. But that's not easy, and it's especially hard in those situations where emotions are running high and you have to get a really good hold on them and use them to your advantage. And that's very true in boardrooms. It's also very true at kilometer 42 of an ultra marathon. So that's where the story version comes in. So let me tell you a little bit about that. I decided to run the ultra marathon called Two Oceans in Cape Town, South Africa in April 25. And if you look really, really closely here on the picture, the person in the back that is not looking the most happy in their life, that's me at said kilometer 42 of the race. So you start out super energized, everybody's feeling great, everybody's having a fantastic time. You're following your race plan, you know, you're keeping your pace, you're sticking to your nutrition goals, you're doing everything right. And then you hit the hill called Constantia Neck. That's a little thing with the red circle around it. And it's infamous, really. Everybody warns you in advance and says, this is the most difficult part of the race. Why? Not because it's the steepest, even though it looks pretty steep here, but it's, you know, it's not a mountain, it's a hill. The problem is that you're entering uncharted territory. This is where most runners mentally break, because up until this point, 2 kilometer 42, you know what you're doing, right? You've been there, you've done that. But now, what now? Are you actually, now the self-doubt creeps in too, right? When you're tired, your legs feel like concrete, your mind starts giving you all the non-positive talk, you know, maybe I shouldn't have signed up for this in the first place. Maybe you can't do this after all. Maybe you haven't trained enough. Maybe you aren't good enough. Maybe all the things, you know what I'm talking about. And really, I think probably one of the most unsettling things is you've never run this far. You've never done this before. Kind of sounds like AI, right? So maybe it's not possible, or maybe it is. That moment, that junction basically that you're standing at least mentally, it appears in sports, it appears in business, it appears in life. And we call it the wall. Your plan falls apart, you're out of autopilot, you've never done this before, and you have to decide, you have to make a decision here. Do I stop, or do I lead myself through? And why am I telling you this? Because this is our bridge into emotional intelligence and how important that is. Because guess what? Emotional intelligence is the ability to notice, not judge, not repeat, not say out loud, just to notice what you're feeling. Step one. Understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling. Is it really what it appears to be on the surface level, or is there something underneath it that makes you feel the way that you're feeling? And then, and only then, and that's why there's a space between these two lines here, only then choose how you respond. because you always have a choice. It just doesn't feel like that most of the time for most of the people. So notice what you're feeling, understand why, and then choose how you want to respond in that given situation. Because emotional intelligence is really not about being nice. I think that's a common misunderstanding, right? You want to be kind as a person, but you don't have to be nice all the time. And EQ is specifically not about being nice, it's about making better decisions, especially when pressure is high. Your goal is not to be soft, your goal is not to be agreeable, your goal is not to optimize for likability. That's a surefire way to, in the end, make everybody unhappy. You want to make better decisions when pressure is high. So, taking that back to the ultramarathon example, it would have been super easy to just stop and give in and give up and say, I tried, but it wasn't for me. And if I had cared about what I looked like, what I felt like, what was going through my head, that would have been a really easy thing to do. But what mattered is I was able to create space between how I felt and how I chose to respond. So you can feel not great and you can look at it and go, okay, acknowledge it. This makes me feel a certain way. And now assess your options. What can I do? What is in my toolbox in this very moment? What is one small step that I can take to actually get me closer to my goal, whatever that may be? And so again, that moment where you get to decide what you want to do with the emotion that you've just felt, that is what can make you an incredibly successful leader, or what can break your strategy and your progress that you've been making up to that point. Now you might argue, okay, I have a first understanding or first sense of what emotional intelligence is. How does that actually now, translate into the results piece that we talked about? What changes when emotional intelligence is strong? Well, a few things happen. One, there's a lot better communication under stress, because people aren't just reactive and aren't just, saying the first thing that slips their mind. They can be mindful. You can be mindful in what you want to put out, what you want the message to be. A lot less reactive decisions, a lot less of that table tennis, as we call it, where, one bad answer provokes another bad answer, and then you ping pong that back and forth until everybody is completely mad and has escalated it to the most senior people possible. Terrible situation. Usually a phone call also helps reduce some of that. So just saying. There's a lot more consistent leadership behavior if emotional intelligence is strong, because people are better at reading the signal, and they're also better at framing things in a way that is considerate and actually gets them closer to where they're wanting to go, versus just speaking their mind as it arrives. And that automatically means better outcomes without more effort. Now, what do I mean by that? You don't have to try harder, but you burn less energy fighting yourself and the people around you, because you have a better understanding and a better way of communicating. Now, all of that has been theory, and the reality is, before we all can change anything, we have to see it, experience it. Because one moment in time is always easy to brush off. You can always say, oh yeah, I had a bad day. I usually don't do that, but today was just one of those days where I just couldn't help myself. So what we're looking for is the patterns, right? The things that repeat themselves. And those are really important to understand, to see, first and foremost in yourself, and then eventually in other people. So what I'd like to invite you to do, and you don't have to write, but you can also just think about it for the next 3 minutes, is think about your trigger pattern. So really, take a moment to think about 4 questions that are here on the screen. What situation consistently drains your energy as a leader? What are the moments where you sit in a meeting and you're like, oh, I'd rather, drill nails through my fingers? What are those situations? The ones that, not the one-offs, the ones that keep repeating themselves. What emotions show up first? What do you feel? Put a word on it, put a label on it. What story do you tell yourself in that moment? And what do you do? What behavior follows? I'll shut up for 3 minutes, and I invite you to think about these things. I'll leave the questions here on the screen. I'll put on a little timer here. There are no wrong answers, nothing wrong that you can do or say. Try and think about it for a sec.
Very good, Jasmin. Might it be an idea, at least an option for people to put in the chat if they want to
Sure.
share anything here? But I think let's pause for the next 2.5 minutes. But let's use the chat if you like.
Absolutely, go for it. And everybody is invited to share as much or as little as they would like. Absolutely. Great suggestion, Jonas. Thank you. We've got about a minute left, so depending on where you're at with your answers, you might want to progress to 3 and 4. And then if you would like to share, we'll have an opportunity to share in a second here. So look forward to hearing how that felt. All right, final seconds. And be ready to be back with your mind. There we go. Fantastic. So anybody, what was your experience? Does anybody like to share if they caught something running through their head?
I do hope we have somebody that I don't have to voluntold. Anybody willing to share for a little bit on your trigger pattern?
Sure, I will.
Let's go to Len. Thank you,
Yeah,
Len.
absolutely. So I've managed teams for quite a long time. I'm currently not, which is actually a nice little break, to be honest. But a lot of times, you have certain tasks or action items that you have for your team, and sometimes they just don't do them, right? And it's frustrating. And my whole part of being a leader is I like to protect my team as well. So I'm trying to help you, right? So that's always kind of my thought process, but it just gets down to me finding out why they're not doing the action items. Maybe it was me that wasn't clear enough in why I wanted them to do the particular things.
That's a great observation. Thank you, Lynn. And I totally agree. It's so sometimes it's very easy to just be frustrated and in your mind it's clear and you know exactly why you wanted them to do that, but it might not be the same the other way around, right? So catching yourself in between your frustration and then deciding how to address that and how to talk your team through that is a fantastic example. Spot on.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Well, let me take you to the end because we're nearing session close as well. So if you take one thing away, emotional intelligence is the hidden multiplier, because leaders like you who see patterns in themselves and others consistently deliver faster change and execute stronger and have higher team engagement, which in turn produces better results. So whenever you come across a conversation about emotional intelligence, don't let it be swept off the table as a soft skill or being nice or optimizing for likability. It is actually a skill that will set you apart and make you a more successful leader than some of your peers who don't pay enough attention to it. And if today was helpful, if you want to take emotional intelligence from awareness to impact, I do have a workshop that I can give and that I just presented at Wiley, great publishing house with their female leadership team. Great session that teaches the leaders in the room in practical application to recognize their patterns and then actually practice what to do about it. Because saying that you want to change something is one thing, but actually changing the thing that you're trying to do is a little more difficult. And if we can practice that in a safe environment, that's always a great idea. So if that resonates, come find me. I'm happy to answer questions. And we do have a minute or two for questions.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Jasmin. Very good. You can leave this slide on, perhaps.
Sure.
But thank you very much. A lot of good insights. Really appreciate it. This ability to notice what you're feeling. But also, as it says here, which made my mind stop, was, this second bullet of practice interrupting unhelpful patterns in real time, because that takes, like you said, courage, safety, a certain kind of working environment that I know for sure is not there in all organizations. But in terms of unhelpful patterns, I will stop talking. Anybody else wants to comment, reflect, and insight? Anything else here at the end? Things you took away? All right. I think for that, I can go to Florian also because you joined us first and we had a good little chat on the Eurovision. One or two things that you wrote down, Florian, if you don't mind sharing?
Yes, of course. I really found that structure good to show, I made a screenshot. Give me a second. That was the main thing for me. The notice what you're feeling, then understand why, and then choose how to respond. That's the main part of that. And I really found your teeth is very good. It's not a soft skill. So
yes.
yeah. So and I really found that helpful, and that's while listening to you, I found like I really have some things to learn and to that I can do better. But I think that's true for all of us, because EQ is always a learning path. You're not at 100%. There is no 100%. So that was very helpful. Thank you.
No, amazing. And
Florian.
you're spot on. It's a lifelong learning exercise, right? And the second you think you have it figured out, either you change or the environment changes. So that's the awareness is key, right? To notice what you're feeling and then create that space between how you feel and how you choose to respond. Spot on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jasmin. We are right on time, so I'll just wrap it up here. Say thank you so much for all of you for joining. Thanks for learning. Thanks for also. I think this is the first time actually in many calls where we had 3 minutes to actually reflect. I'm gonna give you a lot of plus points for that. I thought that was really good. A little bit courageous, like but I think that's exactly what we need.
I found one
you.
thing. Thank you, Jasmin. Very good. Thank you.
That's all we have. I'll be back in touch with the slides and the follow-up. But for now, have a good rest of your day. And thank you once again, Jasmin. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.